Okay, hello, hello, wow. Where are the men? Where are the men today? There's a few, only the two at the front. Yes, we have only male speakers today. I think we need some females. Next time we want some of you girls coming up here, please. All right, so I'm Rob. Thank you very much for bringing me here, Patrick. As we say, we're old friends. We go back a long way. I'm here also on behalf of the Extensive Reading Foundation, which is an international organization to help promote extensive reading globally. And we do many different things. We've been in Korea for a long time. And we have a guide to extensive reading, which is available in English and also in Hangul. So you can download it from the ER Foundation website. You don't have to write down the URL, the PowerPoint you can download later. Just type Extensive Reading Foundation into the web and you can find it. So many of the things I'm going to say will come from here. This is available as a PDF. So if I talk too fast, if I go through too much stuff too quickly, feel free to download the guide and go through things. I have many, many, many slides today. They'll be in your handout. They're in your book. I'll go through them reasonably quickly because there's a lot of ground to cover in an hour. So I've written the presentation in a way so you can actually read my presentation even if you're not here, right? So the idea is to try and make sure you can then go back and do your homework later. Now I have a piece of homework for you, which is to read this. I also want to mention that in August we have the 4th International World Congress on Extensive Reading. There'll be somewhere between 300 to 500 people come to talk only about extensive reading and extensive listening. It's in Tokyo. It's in August, on August the 4th to the 7th. So please think about that. If you have time to come, please do so. Yeah. All right. So why don't people do ER? Why don't we do it? Well, many people don't know what it is. Or people confuse. They might think that dadoku, which is your intensive reading, is actually extensive reading. Yes, dadoku is often said to be extensive reading, but actually some people think of that as kind of intensive reading, or lots of intensive reading, yeah, which is kind of study reading. We'll come back to that later. Or you may say, oh, we can't do it because there's no space in the curriculum, or I don't know how to find out, don't know anybody who does this. Or I don't know what materials to use, don't know how to assess the reading, don't know how to choose materials, or I've got no money. So there's lots of reasons why people might not do that. So my presentation is going to try and help you to go through some of these things to be able to show you what ER actually is. So what is extensive reading? That's extensive reading. Yep. This is extensive reading. That's extensive reading. Yeah? Can you see any pens? Yeah? No, no pens, right? No fill-in worksheets. These pictures are taken in Korea. See the names? Dina. So I don't know what this is all about. This is from a friend of mine called Rocky Nelson, who was down in Busan for many years. This is his students. These are older students. Just reading. Yeah? Just reading, yeah? Dokso, I believe you say. Yeah? So here we are, just reading your books. And here are some pictures of men too. Some men do read as well. And this is Rocky himself. I don't think he's in Korea now. I think he moved to the Philippines. And these are some worksheets. This is a record of what people have read, how much they've read, and so on. Yeah. This is the library, a typical library with a librarian who... I don't know what she's doing there. Typical library. We'll look at some more pictures of libraries later, how people build their libraries. Now this here is quite different. Here you can see a pen in hand, worksheets, fill in the information. This is not what we typically call extensive reading in terms of the reading element. Often later, Ian's going to be talking about activities that follow up the extensive reading. Yes? These may be follow-up reading activities, but this looks like fill in the blanks. We call this language study reading or intensive reading, where you read something, short passage, maybe only 100 words, read, check the vocabulary, check the grammar, get comprehension questions, and also do vocabulary work. And that's the kind of reading here. Yes, again, pen in hand, worksheets to work through. So what is extensive reading? Well, it's fast, fluent reading of storybooks, and you should have some storybooks in front of you. Yes, you have storybooks. These kind of books we would call extensive reading materials, with high levels of comprehension. And this is really important. Focus on comprehension. The idea is to understand the story. It's about enjoyment, not directly about language learning. This is not about learning new stuff. This is about deepening knowledge of stuff you partly know, getting faster, getting better at it, okay? And typically it's done with graded readers or leveled readers. Again, you have some examples of these here. So extensive reading, this fast, fluent reading of texts, and intensive reading, which is the study type of reading, are two sides of the same coin. They go together. They go together. It's very important that they go together. So on the one side, you've got the study, which is a bit like going to driving school. When you go to driving school, you study the rules of the road. Someone teaches you, what's the steering wheel, where are the pedals, what do you do, how do you move the car? Think about intensive reading. And you drive in a very controlled environment. Yes? But in extensive reading is driving on the road, where you're actually going out and experiencing the road. You're watching out for the dog on the left. You're making sure you know which direction to go. You're trying to talk to somebody sitting next to you. So it's a very different type of driving when you're driving on the road from when you're in driving school. Yeah? Or you might talk about practicing baseball in the net, just pitch and pitch, or just hit and hit, or playing the game. Two quite different activities. To be a good driver, to be a good baseball player, you need to play the game. You need to be on the road. And that's what extensive reading is about. So intensive reading is about language building. It's about building language, learning grammar, learning vocabulary, getting some reading skills. Extensive reading is actually practicing them, getting better at it. So they work together. They're not opposites. So the aim of extensive reading is about recycling words, grammar, making the grammar come again and again and again, and to consolidate, to strengthen partly known language. So you're going to learn a new word, maybe from an intensive course book, but you may learn the word from the book, but it's not really strongly in your head. It's easy to forget. So extensive reading is about making you meet that word again and again and again. You meet the grammar patterns again and again and again to make it stronger. So intensive reading is about introducing stuff. Extensive reading is about practicing it. So we provide massive fluent reading practice. To be a good reader, you need to read a lot. To be able to be a good baseball player, you need to play the game a lot. To be a good piano player, you need to practice your piano every day. To build reading speed is really important. It helps you process language better. To build depth of knowledge, to be enjoyable. And the reason it should be enjoyable is if it's not enjoyable, then they aren't going to read very much. So, massive language practice at the student's level of understanding. It's not difficult. Little difficult, okay. Not too difficult. If it's too difficult, it becomes study reading again. Yes? So there's excellent chances for the development of fluent eye movements. It means your eye moves smoothly across the page like this. It's not tung, 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 tung. What was this? Tung, 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 right? Which is study reading. And that's fine. Study reading is fine. Nothing wrong with study reading. But it helps you build fluent eye movements, helps you build speed. Why is speed important? Speed's important because you can read faster. It means you read more text. It means you meet more vocabulary. It means you meet more patterns. And that you process language at a deeper level. There's excellent chances to learn the patterns in the language. So if you might teach, for example, a new grammatical structure, if you teach a new grammatical structure through intensive language study, then the practice of that would come through extensive reading. Many of you here who have students who are intermediate level, maybe they're still struggling with a tense like, say, the present perfect tense. Yeah, they still haven't quite got it right. Even though they've met it 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times, they still haven't quite got it. Yeah, and the reason is that the intensive study will introduce the rule to you, but you don't really understand what it means. You can't sense how it goes until you've met the language again and again and again, yes. So intermediate level learners might meet the present perfect tense 1,000 times, 2,000 times, 3,000 times before they feel, you know, I should be saying, I've been to Seoul, not I went Seoul. There's a reason why we say present perfect, a reason why we say the past simple. So it might take a long, long time to build that pattern in your head, that sense of what feels right. Also, with extensive reading, there's a high probability the students are interested in what they're reading because they have actually chosen what they want to read. Yes? For intensive material, tends to be a book decided by the teacher or decided by the school, which all students read, whether it's interesting for them or not interesting for them. All students in intensive study work use the same material. Okay? Extensive reading, you have freedom to choose what you want to read at your level, at your pace. So, because it's more personalized, there's a chance you're going to be a more confident reader. But when students are choosing a book to read, it's important they choose at the right level. If they choose something that's too difficult, therefore their eye is going to be slowed down, they're going to be reading intensively, they're going to be diving into a dictionary, and that's not what we want for extensive reading. So when students are choosing materials, they're trying to decide, you know, do I choose this book at this level? Do I choose this book at this level? The students should ask themselves these questions. Can I read something quickly and enjoyably with adequate comprehension so I don't need a dictionary? That's what the students need to pick up the book and say, can I read this without a dictionary? Is this easy enough for me? If the answer is yes, that's the level. That's their level. So students should read 2, 3, 4 pages of a book they're looking at. They shouldn't just look at the cover. They should look and find, can I actually read this with high levels of comprehension? Then say, yes, this is my extensive reading practice. This is my driving on the road. This is my playing the game. If they've chosen a book with too many words, too much language they don't know, that then becomes study reading, right? Nothing wrong with study reading, but if you're doing extensive reading, encourage them to R-E-A-D, yes? Read, yes? So it's important to train students to do this. Now, in countries like Korea, Japan, Vietnam, and so on, a lot of reading tends to be the intensive type. Students are told, in order to read, you must read something difficult. Reading pain equals reading gain. That's the kind of mantra that we get. Now, that's not what we do for extensive reading. That's intensive reading, yes? So it's not like going to the gym lifting weights. The harder the reading, the stronger my English. No, that's not going to help. They'll build reading speed. So we need to make sure that they can read. So training students to choose words, choose books well, is probably the hardest thing to do in extensive reading, because students have been acculturated into believing that hard equals good. Now, sometimes hard is good, but for extensive reading, easy is good, because the idea is you've got to build your fluent eye movements, you've got to build your reading speed, you've got to build enjoyable reading. It's very important that they do that. If they need a dictionary, it's going to be too hard. They'll read slowly, they'll get tired, they'll stop. The aim is fluency and speed. You think of it a bit like speaking practice, yes? We have conversation class. Why do we have conversation class? To practice your speaking, yes? It's the same for extensive reading. You need that chance to practice. It's the same as conversation practice, yes? Not like a conversation drill, whereas you're A and I'm B. That's intensive speaking practice. It's not the same as, let's talk about what you did last weekend, tell me about a book you've been reading, where you have choice over the language. So, aim is fluency and speed. Aim is not to learn new stuff. Now, by accident, they may occasionally pick up 1 or 2 new words. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But that's not the aim. The main focus is speed. So there's a kind of a continuum. Down this end, high end, where you are fast, fluent reading, and down this end is where it's hard, difficult, I'm trying to learn new stuff. Down here, aim, trying to learn new language, intensive reading. Down here, practice my reading, yeah? So there's kind of a line between the two. Now, some of the time when the students are reading, occasionally they will jump down here. Oh, what's this word? I don't know this word. And then they will jump back over to this end. So we want to keep the students down this end as much as we can, the fast, fluent end, and few jumps down to the study end, okay? So students typically read at home or out of class, so it doesn't take much class time, but we add it to our reading program. So if the books are too difficult, the learner doesn't understand, they read slowly, they don't enjoy the reading, and therefore they don't read much, okay? That's the vicious circle of reading. But what we want is when the books are easy, the student will understand better. Can you guess the next one? Will read faster. Next. They will enjoy. Therefore, they read more. Okay? This is the cycle we want. That's the cycle we want. Okay? It's very important that we have that cycle. So, if the book's too difficult, you're going to get that, right? Okay? So your job as a teacher is to know your library. Know the books that you've got. If you have time, read the books in your library yourself so you can encourage the students and say, this is a good book for you. And your job as an extensive reading teacher is to go around saying, how's your book? Is it okay? Is it fine? Not too difficult? Great. How's your book? How's your book? Oh, looks like that's a bit too difficult for you. Oh, here's a really good romance story. You like romance? This is a good mystery story. So your job is to know your library. Know your library, know the books that you've got so you can encourage students to keep reading more and more and more. So I'm going to talk about some numbers now. I'm sure many of you don't really like math, but we have to understand that when we have a book like this, we call these graded readers. We talk about them as extensive reading material. But the question about whether you're reading this extensively or whether your students are reading this intensively has nothing to do with the book. Whether you're reading extensively or whether your students are reading intensively, it's all about what's in here. So, if you've got this book, for example, and one student, for example, would look at this and say, wow, it's too difficult for me. Lots of words I don't know. So the person's down this end, the intensive study, I need my dictionary. Now, the same book can be read by somebody like Patrick, for example, easy peasy, no problem whatsoever. So, extensive reading is about what happens in the head. If you find that students are down here with it, where they're having to look into the book and dig into the language too much, they're down on the intensive side, yes? So it's important students choose the right material. So, let's look at this. And how do we know? If the material on the page, if students look at the book and they know 90% of the language on the page, 10% they don't know, we call it reading pain. Yeah? Too difficult. This is actually more difficult than intensive reading. Too many things they don't know. Tiring, demotivating, not very useful. Very high effort. But if they know between 90 to 98% of the words on the page, we call this intensive reading, yes? Where it's at an instructional level, they have enough language to learn from. Not too much that they don't know. Next one, between 98 to 100% of the words, extensive reading. This is the sweet spot. Only about 1, 2, 3% of words on the page they don't know. This will allow them to be able to read fast, quickly, high level of enjoyment. And beyond 100%, that is about pure speed reading practice, just getting faster. Okay? So we have to try and make students somewhere here. Unfortunately, many students tend to read down here. So your job as a teacher is to try to push them this way, to help them to move to extensive reading end. As I say, whether something is extensive or intensive depends on what's in the head, not what the book is, yes? So you can have two sisters. Both are 14 years old, twin sisters, same teacher, same textbook, same Hagwon, all their life, but they have different reading levels, different confidence levels, even with exactly the same courses. Yeah? So you need to understand your students and know who can be pushed and who likes to say nice and safe, I want to read something I know all the words, and who's prepared to take a risk with things they don't know. So know your students. So these are typical materials that you can use outside. You've seen some of them. Ian will be talking more about them later. And the readers are graded. They start at the very, very bottom with phonics material, something maybe like this material here, speed phonics material. We start with phonics down here, easy vocabulary, easy grammar materials to more difficult vocabulary and so on. So the idea is that you'll start with some materials like this, and we build on previous knowledge. So this material here has this language plus this, plus this, plus this. Right? So this material has this plus this, plus this, plus this. So we're building on previous knowledge, carefully programmed previous knowledge. Yes? And the idea eventually is you'll read native materials. We don't start here. When you start the piano, you don't start with Rachmaninoff's Third Symphony. You don't start there. Yes, you don't start there. You don't start playing tennis against, for example, Andy Murray. We start baby steps. We start off down here with the easy material. We build on previous knowledge. Yes? Be careful with native materials, because native materials, the input is random. It's not programmed. It's written for natives. Yes? Material written for students, second language students, EFL, ESL material, is carefully written so it builds on previous knowledge. Level 1 books have limited grammar, limited vocabulary. Level 2 have slightly higher grammar, slightly higher vocabulary. We build on previous knowledge. So you can see it's very easy materials. I'm sure you're familiar with these types of materials. They get more and more difficult. See, the sentences get longer, harder plot, more difficult grammar, more text, fewer pictures as we step up through the levels. Okay? All right, that's how we do. There's also some online solutions. For example, here are some online solutions which have been used. Some online reading materials here which we can listen to. Some materials, some of it's language materials, some phonics materials, and these types of materials are also very, very useful. If you don't have graded reading materials, books, we have online materials. So how does this work? Well, if you've got Unit 1, for example, of your textbook, maybe Unit 1 is teaching with the be verb. Unit 2 has the simple present tense. And so what we have here is present continuous. The next one, Unit 4, does can. Unit 5 does will. Unit 6 does present perfect. So we have a kind of grammatical order through our course books. And this is the sort of linear approach where students build by doing the next, the next, the next. So that introduces the language, your course book, your study reading, your intensive reading, builds this introduction to language. Introduce the words, introduce the grammar. But extensive reading consolidates and strengthens that by building on previous knowledge. And Unit 1 material would be Level 1 books, Unit 3 and 4 would be Level 2 books, and so on and so on. So the language here would be this language plus this one. Level 3 has this language plus this plus that, building on previous knowledge. So, if we're talking about how to do extensive reading, it's important you understand your program. Here is the program, I mean, what is the structure of how you give these books to the students? So how much time does your curriculum allow? Do you have 10 minutes a week? Do you have 2 hours a week? How much reading can you give to the students? How flexible is it? Are you able to change that within a class? Can you change your entire school curriculum? Are your hands tied by a ministry or whatever? How much time do you have for homework for them? Do you want to add it to an existing class? Or do you want to start a completely new extensive reading only class? Do you have budget for this? Is the budget one-time budget? Here's $1,000,001, or is it going to be $500,001 every year, right? So you have to plan carefully, thinking about, is it going to be one sort of money, or is it going to be an annual budget? That makes a big difference. Do you have staff not only for the teachers, but do you have staff to manage a library? Often it's good if you can put the books into the school library. If you have a school library, that's great. They already have book borrowing systems. They have staff to do that. But sometimes your local library may say, no, I'm sorry, we don't have staff for this. Because if you have 500 students, each student's borrowing one book a week, that's 500 extra books need to be borrowed and taken care of by the librarian. They may not have time to do that. Often libraries are very happy that you want to bring students in, but sometimes they have only part-time staff. They may not be able to do it, so you may need to build your library privately in your own class. So you need to think about this. How are you going to manage the materials? Are you going to have a library? Are you going to bring the books in a bag or push them in a trolley? How are you going to actually bring the books to the students? What book borrowing systems do you have? Do you want to do an honesty system where you can say, kids, just take a book, bring it back next week, I trust you? Or are you going to have a proper system where you stamp books in and stamp books out? If you have a proper system with stamping books in and stamp books out, there's a price to pay in terms of setting up the system, organizing the level, making sure books get back, and so on and so on. So in my school, we used to have our system we decided was to do an honesty system. We have 5,000 graded readers in our library, and we trusted the students to go into the room, borrow the books, and bring them back. Now, we knew we're going to lose 10% every year. We know this. But we found out it was cheaper to have an honesty system than pay someone to be there all the time to do this, right? It was cheaper to actually lose books rather than to actually pay to have a librarian. So you need to think about these things, yes? How is the reading going to be assessed? Will you assess the reading or not? Are you going to assess comprehension? Or are you just going to assess, did they do the reading? Yes, there's a big distinction there. Assessing the reading means comprehension questions of the book itself, right? If you want that, then there's an online system called mreader.org, I'll mention it later, that will do that for you. Or are you just going to assess they actually read it? One of the big questions about assessment for extensive reading is, how can I assess the students of reading and understanding? My answer to that is, for extensive reading, you don't need to test them at all. Why is that? Because when the students are choosing a book, do I choose this book? Do I choose this book? As I said, R-E-A-D. Do you remember the R? Read something quickly and enjoyably with adequate comprehension so they don't... Dictionary, okay. So if the students are doing that, they're choosing, do I choose this level or this level or this level? If they're doing that well, and if they're reading 3 or 4 pages of the book before they decide to take it home, the comprehension test has already been done. At the moment they choose the book, they've said, I know what this book is about, and I can continue to read it. So you don't need to test comprehension. Now, you might need to assess they actually finished it, because you may say, this semester, I want you to read 20 books, 50 books. You might need to know they finished it, which is very different from checking they actually understood it. So my suggestion for assessment would be, you would assess it indirectly. So that would be something like, when you've read the book, every Wednesday, second class, Wednesday morning, please tell your partner about the book you've been reading. And the students who didn't read, you can find them straight away. Yes? Or they can make a poster presentation, or they can do something else. It's an indirect way of assessing they've understood it. And if they find difficult to say what the book is about, you can spot them and say, why don't you try something easier next week? Right? So this is a way the teacher can monitor that. So my suggestion is assessment should be indirect, not necessarily direct. Direct would be, here's a test, right? Now, if all the students are reading their own books, you have to then have 5,000 tests for your entire library, which is just not possible. So for extensive reading, indirect assessment through posters, presentations, something like that, maybe even a report, or you could do assessment through how much they read, how many books they read, high score, how many words they read, high score, low score. You can give a score on how much is read. So indirect assessment is often better. Okay. So when do they read? Well, they can read in class. They can read as a whole class. So all the class have the same book, and you can talk about the book together. And I suggest you do this at the beginning of an extensive reading program. Then we have independent reading. So this is silent reading time in class. It's important to have the silent reading time so that the students you can actually monitor them. This is really important to have this, particularly beginning of a course, because then you can go and talk to them. As they're silently reading, you can go and talk to the students. How's your book? How's it okay? You really like this one? Do you want another book? Yeah. And you can see what they're doing. You can monitor their reading. So it's very important we have a silent reading time in class, where at that time, maybe they can also exchange books for the following week. Yeah? Silent reading time in class is very, very important, and I'll come to talk about this a little bit more later. Remember, if they need a dictionary, it's going to slow them down, and it becomes intensive reading, study reading. So extensive reading, focus on speed, fluency. But there are actually many types of extensive reading, many types of extensive reading. There are many different ways for the teacher to do extensive reading, many different ways. Okay? Okay? Whoa. Okay, so there's many different flavors. Whoa. Come in. All right. But there's a minimum requirement for any language program that has extensive reading has a minimum requirement to be called extensive reading. All extensive reading, that's this end, all extensive reading programs should have students, it's easy, it's fast, high comprehension, and fun. That's the minimum requirement to call something extensive reading. Okay? If you don't have that, it's not extensive reading, it's something else. But we also have some choices about what we do after the reading. After the reading, we can have assessment or tests or reports or exercises if you wish. And Ian later is going to give you some ideas about what you can do after the reading. Or before the reading, yes? So we might want to teach some vocabulary before they read. Okay? Or you can have the students self-select, like you choose your book. Or as a teacher, you could have all the students read the same book. For some reason, you want to go through one book. You can have lots of reading or very little reading. That, I think, would probably not make it extensive reading. Extensive reading actually is a lot of material. At least a book a week. At least a book a week. At least a book a week. And for advanced learners, even more, and I can explain why later. Now, you can do the reading out of class, or you can do the reading in class. My suggestion, a mixture of the two. Sometime during the week, you need to watch them read, to check they're actually doing the reading, help them choose stories well, help them share their reading, tell them what they can tell each other what's a good book, what they liked, what they didn't like, and so on. So share this, make it a shared experience, not a solo, lonely experience of just me and my book. So share it as a class. You can have no follow-up activities. Some teachers, for example, Stephen Krashen, would say, you just have to read. You don't need to do anything else. You just have to read. Other people say, no, we should have discussion. We should do maybe poster sessions. We should do something else. Now, my suggestion would be for most people, doing some follow-up activities is very useful, because that creates a reading community. And also, if the students are reading, maybe you want them to write a report or make a poster, so the reading becomes writing. They then need to present that, so the writing becomes speaking, and for other people listening. So if you have follow-up activities, it then becomes multi-skilled. Not just reading only. Reading becomes writing, becomes listening, speaking, and then listening. Yeah? Maybe you don't need the writing step. The reading could just become speaking about your book, and then other people listening about the book. So we can turn the reading into multi-skill. If you have a conversation class where your idea is just to speak, yes, just a conversation class, extensive reading is wonderful fuel for that. Wonderful, because it gives the kids something to talk about. Yes, it's a bit tiresome talking about what you did on the weekend every single week. Yeah? So it gives that. So how to do it? My suggestion would be start small but think big. Very important. Start small. If it's new to your school, then start only in your class or start with only certain students in your class. You might have some 4 or 5 students you know who are really keen. After the class, hey, I've got some books. Do you want to come and have a look at some of these books? Start with 3 or 4 students, see how it goes. Then maybe start with the whole class, see how it goes. Learn what works, learn what doesn't work. Learn what motivates them, learn what doesn't motivate them. And then expand later to maybe class with another friend, maybe the whole year, maybe the whole school, and if you're lucky, the school district. So start small, learn about how it works, what doesn't work. Now, what works for you might not work for your friend. Yes? So it's quite a personal journey. Yes? If you're lucky enough to be able to give advice to a school district, please remember that your experience might not suit somebody else's experience. Listen to what the problems are the other people are having. Go slowly at first. Go slowly at first. One of the problems we have with extensive reading is people often come along to a session like this. They learn something about extensive reading. They get so enthusiastic, so motivated, they go out and buy some books. On Monday morning, they go to their students and say, hey, read. Yes? Now, and there's too much pressure. Yes? Teachers too enthusiastic. And it's like a door-to-door salesman coming, knocking on your door. Dun, 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 dun. Come and buy my latest oven cleaning product or whatever it would be. Yes? So if you come across too strongly as a salesperson, people's natural reaction is like, okay, what's going on here, right? So you need to bring it in slowly and carefully, especially if students are not used to this type of fluency reading. Slowly and carefully bring it in. That means that the ER program should not be about your class. Extensive reading should be thinking about how can I take ER through the curriculum, through the whole class, through the whole this year, next year, the year after. Extensive reading should be built into the school system, not just into your class. So focus on wider than yourself. Go slowly first. If you go too quickly, you can create enemies. And if you find that you're fighting your students to get them to read, you will lose. I guarantee you will lose. You will lose. Happens all the time. One of the biggest killers for extensive reading is going too far, too fast, too ambitious. Yeah? Remember, for many kids who've been trained in intensive language study, this is something completely new for them. It's against their belief of why we are studying. Remember, their belief often is reading pain is reading gain. You come along and say, this is easy. Say, I'm sorry, I'm not learning anything. They will say, I'm not learning anything. This is too easy for me. This is childish for me. What they misunderstand is they're building fluency, building pattern recognition, building speed, and so on. So for many kids, for many teachers, this is a hard sell. So we need to go slowly, be where they are. You might find one class accepts it easily, no problem. This year, very luckily, my first year class in university, they love it from day one. Miracle. The class last year, I had such a struggle getting them to do it. Such a struggle. But I did win in the end. So you need to look for potential problems. What are the problems that might happen if I'm introducing this? Yeah, am I going to get pushback from teachers? Am I going to get pushback from parents? Parents come along and say, why are you giving these easy books to my student, my daughter? My daughter needs something difficult. Now, you need to sometimes train the parents too. So if you're having an extensive reading program, during your parent-teacher night, when the parents come to the school, explain to them why you're doing this. Because if the parents don't understand it, they think that you're not challenging their children. and therefore they'll fight against it. And the PTA, Parent Teachers Association, will close down the extensive reading program. I've seen this happen quite a number of times. So it's a matter of educating the students, other teachers, the principal, the administration, the library, and the parents to make sure this is understood. In my own university, when I started extensive reading some 200 years ago, it feels like now, a long, long time ago, I brought these books to the library, and they said, I'm sorry, we can't put them in our library. What? You know, and I made two mistakes. First, I approached the library myself. Big mistake. I should have approached the library through the department librarian committee. Right? Coming as an ordinary teacher, I had no power. So if it comes across as a department request, then they will have to listen. That was the one problem. The second problem was the librarian didn't understand these books, didn't understand what they were for. And they said, look, I'm sorry, Waring Sensei, look, you know, every year we have an inspection by the Ministry of Education, and if they see these little childish books, it will be so embarrassing. Yeah? And that's changed, completely changed. As you know, with a lot of e-materials now, e-books, a lot of online learning, students are not going to the library anymore. Right? They're not going anymore to the library. Or they go to study, they go to sleep. Yes? But they don't borrow books. So the librarians would love you to have students come. If you can say to them, we will bring 500 more people through your door, please bring them through, because it's job justification. I now have a reason to keep my job. They want people to come through. So libraries now tend to be more receptive towards having these materials than they had been in the past. But you will still find some librarians are still old school. Sorry, too childish, can't do that, embarrassing. So you need to be careful about that. So look for potential problems, experiment with different styles. As I say, you can do lots of reading, little follow-up, lots of follow-up, and lots of reading. Experiment with different styles. Set aims for the students. This would be how many books you want them to read, or how many words you want them to read, by what time, and also goals for you. Yes, this might be, I want to reduce the number of lost books, or I want to have a higher score on the end of semester questionnaire about love of reading. Okay? So you need goals for yourself and the class, but also goals for the students themselves. But be aware that things don't go so well. Even the best planned programs sometimes don't work out so well, but don't worry about that. Learn from the experience and try again next year. So how do we start an extensive reading program? Well, the first thing to do is to find out about ER, right, which is what you're doing today, and many of you already have done. Make a plan. You want to make a plan of how much reading you want them to do, where are you going to put the library, and all these sort of things. How are you going to assess it? What's your book borrowing system? Get funding, I'll come to talk about that. Get everyone involved, I'll talk more. And all of these things here, we'll come to talk about these things in the following slides. Planning the program. The first part, it needs to be an integral part of the school's curriculum. Yes, as much as you can, get it built into the system of the school. Get it part of the assessment of their work. Because that means we take it seriously. If you have it as an optional extra, what will the students do? They will opt out, of course. Teachers will opt out. Why? I'm too busy. Yes? If you try and bring in something to students who are already busy, they're going to fight against it, right? There was a wonderful piece of research done in medicine some years ago that looked at the strongest motivation you can have in your life, which is about the number of people who take life-saving medicine. The idea is, if you don't take this medicine, you will die. So naturally, you expect 100% of people to do that, 100% of time. Only 70%. Only 70% of people will take their life-saving medicine correctly. So what hope do we have of getting students to do an extra hour a week of reading? Yes? So we have to be aware that we're fighting against their real lives. Yeah? So don't expect too much. The idea of the program is to raise the students' reading ability and general English levels. Yes? It should raise their general reading and general English levels. It should affect their writing skills, spelling. It will have knock-on effects on their writing, their reading. The more they read, the better their understanding of spelling, the better writing there becomes, the better their speaking becomes, and so on. So the program should motivate the learners to read and learn from their reading. So not just read books, but read about Australia, read about a story, love story, read about something. So they build their cultural capital. They're building their knowledge about the world as they read. Got a goals to set out how much reading they do and have a library, which I've already mentioned. So there needs to be systems in place for cataloging the books. What are the levels? How do we label the books? How do we categorize the books? How do we check them out and return them? You need to have a variety of materials to read, not only graded readers. You can have other materials as well if your students can cope with them. The system should show the teachers, the parents, the administration that this is serious. We need this. We can't avoid this. We have to have it. So put systems in place to show it's serious to the students. If the students see this as serious as a natural part of language learning, they will do so. If this is seen as an additional thing, they will opt out. So there should be targets for the learners and the program to show the success, and should be bigger and more resilient than one teacher. Often what happens is you have somebody comes along to a session like today, they learn about extensive reading, they start the program in their school, the program goes really, really well, the students love it, but then suddenly the teacher has to leave, goes to another school, or they become a principal, and they're moving away from the daily reading program, and therefore the program slowly dies. So the extensive reading program should be bigger than one person, should get everybody involved. And to get everybody involved in the school can take time. There will always be a teacher in your school who does not understand extensive reading. There's always one. And if they're senior and they've got power, they can destroy this. And I've seen it countless times. Countless times. Yeah? So one of the reasons for the failure of extensive reading programs often is one or two powerful individuals do not understand it, do not like it, and fight against. Maybe they're jealous that you got 500,001 for your library, but they got nothing for their history classes. Or it may be that somebody believes that grammar is the only thing that's important, and this is just a waste of time with these childish books. There's always somebody who doesn't quite get it. So be aware that programs do fail from time to time. Okay? So there should be targets, bigger, more resilient than one teacher. So build a system that's bigger than you. Build a system that will go across, and will across the curriculum, across the whole school, across the school district, that's bigger than just you. So think big, act small. It should have a vision. Where are we going to be 5 years from now? Where are we going to be 10 years from now? Okay? It should have the will to survive lost materials. You will find the principal will come along at the end of the year and say, hey, you've lost 25% of the books. I'm not giving you any more money. Yes? So this is a potential problem. And some people say, if I'm not giving you any more money, therefore the program will suddenly die. Yes? So be careful about making sure that at the end of the year you can show demonstrated success. There's insufficient materials, not enough money coming in, or the money goes to somewhere else. Maybe you're promised, a 500,001 or a million one for this year, and they say 1,000,001 next year. Next year comes, I'm sorry, we need that for the basketball club. Right? That happens. But sometimes you might start with strong enthusiasm, and then after a while, it just becomes normal, it's no longer exciting. And which is great. It should be part of the system. So the program should be well planned, should be flexible, should be allowed changes in materials, changes in how much reading is done, changing in the requirements for assessment, Be flexible about this. Every year, you may have to have a slightly different system because the students are different every year. Yeah? The support you get from the principal or the vice principal may be different every year. Adaptable for future changes, that is an increase in reading or less. You might find that third-year students, because they're really focused on tests, they want to do less reading. But first and second-year students can do more. They don't have to worry about tests so much. So be careful about that. So the key is balance. As I say, make sure everybody's involved. Get support from all the players, the administration, the staff, the teachers, parents, students especially. If the students see the reading as teachers' thing, then they'll be less engaged in doing the reading. Try to get the students involved in helping to choose the books, helping to build the library, take them to the bookstore if you wish, show them the publisher's catalogs. You can each choose 10 books. Which books are you going to choose? Get them involved. Get them involved in managing the library. So if you have 40 students, and you have a book bag, have 2 students every week will be the class librarian, checking the books in, checking the books out, managing this, and going around asking, hey, where's your book? Did you forget your book? Get the students involved in managing the library, as well as doing the library, as well as reading as well. So get students involved. Then it becomes their thing as much as your thing. And as I say, make sure it doesn't become the teacher's thing, or the students will not see it as being serious. Remember that our goal, the goal of teaching, what's the goal of teaching? What's the goal of teaching, the ultimate goal of teaching? Anybody? What's the goal? The final goal of teaching is?
Output by the students.
Output by the students, because? The study. Okay, so they study. Why?
Learning is fun.
Learning is fun, yeah. Is that the aim? The aim of learning, the aim of teaching, the aim of your teaching is to make yourself unemployed. Think about that. Everything that you do in class should take your students to a position they don't need you anymore. They're independent learners. They don't need a dictionary. They don't need these easy books. They can read native materials. So everything that you do as a teacher should be focused on that long-term goal. How can I help them to be independent learners, independent of me? They don't need books. They don't need grammar books. They don't need dictionaries. How can I help them to build the skills, to build the vocabulary, so that they can be independent of us, and so they don't need dictionaries? Just like many of you here can cope without dictionary. Patrick, for example, doesn't need a dictionary. Maybe once a year he needs a dictionary, right? So make sure that that is a key point. Money. Money is a big problem. I've consulted to 50 or 60 different institutions throughout the world. There's always money somewhere. Always. Maybe not a lot, but there's always some money. Maybe directly from the school, or maybe from the school district, a city, a prefecture, a state, for example. Maybe there's a corporate sponsor. Samsung may come along and donate some money, for example. Generous parents, maybe at Parent Teachers Day, say, we've got these books. Would anybody like to help the school? Would you like to fund some of these things? Parents often will help out if it helps the school. Free sample materials from publishers. You have some today. Yes. Patrick, close your ears. If you go to several events like this, go to this one and another one and another one and another one, very quickly you can build a free library. So don't tell Patrick, okay? You could get the students to buy books. Yes, you could say, everybody buy a book for the class. When they're finished reading it, donate it to the school. Right inside, donated by 2017. Yes? And then the students coming next year can see the generosity of their seniors. You can hold school events. You can do like a reading marathon. Maybe it's sports day or festival day, open campus day. Get students to do events, sell cakes, do whatever they want to do. Have a reading marathon where they can sponsor someone to read. You get paid so many won for every book that the students read. These types of things can be very useful to get money. There's always money somewhere. There are quite a lot of materials. There's about 4,000 graded readers in Korea. The best ones are from eFuture. The best ones are from eFuture. Please buy all of those, many, many copies. There's kids' material right down for the very, very lowest level with only 2 or 3 words on a page, right the way up to near native level materials. There's lots more native materials, but do be careful with native materials. Yes, as I said, native materials, often the material is quite random. It's not structured. If your students can READ native materials, then that's fine. If they cannot READ, they need to find something easier, more structured. Yes, it's very important that. Don't confuse the end game with learning with native materials. Means we have to give them native materials. Yes, it's not the end game. The end game is we build up to that, okay? There's lots of online materials now as well. Now, if you're interested in finding out what the graded readers are, there's a site up here. It should be in your book here. If you want to find out what graded readers are available, there's a huge, great big long list of publisher, author, levels, how many words, and so on. Lots and lots and lots and lots of information about all the graded readers available internationally is available at this website. Please have a look if you're interested in doing that, or look at some of the publishers' catalogs. Okay, but how about 10 more minutes, 15 more minutes? Yeah? Okay, great. So, where do you put your library? Well, you could put it in the school library. That's great, because they have book borrowing systems already. Yep. Some libraries, as I say, will be happy, and some libraries will not be happy. Maybe they don't have space, maybe they don't have staff, maybe they think the books are childish. Or a special reading room, that's what we have in my school. An area in the classroom, so a corner of a classroom could be a reading area, or you can have book bags or a cart that you push between classes. Lots of different ways to do it. Or in the teacher's room, if you don't trust the students, they can come to the teacher's room. That makes the teacher's room busy. Yes, so there's a price to pay for having students come to the teacher's room. Share the library with other schools. If you can team up with another school in your town, you can have, you buy 1,000 books, your friend buys 1,000 books, and you swap 500 books between schools from time to time. So you can share libraries between schools. Yes? Like if you have a junior high and a senior high, yes, you can share books this way, share between schools, and so on. But, do ask permission. Make sure the books are carefully written, owned by my school, owned by her school. Make sure you know whose books are which. And that if the other school lose some of your books, it's okay, right? So check that this is all right, yeah? You can build your own library. If you don't have any money at all, which is really rare, what you can do is you can build your own library of materials. What I do for university students is I ask students to go onto the web, find an article that they like, anything at all. It could be a recipe. It could be an article about, engineering or about cars or whatever they want to do. Find an article that they like. What they do for homework is they then write next to it any words that they don't know. Write on the article. They print it, write on the article in Korean, anything they don't know. They come to class, now they understand this, they then talk to their partner about the article, the recipe, the lyrics from a song, doesn't matter. They then talk about it to a friend, and then you listen to theirs, you put all the materials in the middle of the class, and students will take them home and read them. Now the second student can now also write in Korean on anything they don't know. Next week you ask them to get another article, do the same thing. And the next week, and the next week, and the next week. So very quickly what's happening here is the students are finding something that they like, native materials, they're simplifying it because they're writing in Korean what the words are. This then creates, over a period of time, hundreds of student-selected, student-graded materials for your class. You have an instant library that costs you no money and costs you no time. Puts all the work onto the students, yes? So in that way, you can help students to build. And that's a nice bridge between controlled language, which is in the graded readers, and native material. So if your students are at an advanced level, you can then bridge native materials and this controlled material. So if your students are at that level, this is a lovely activity to do. How many books do you need? At least one book per student per week so they can swap. This doesn't, when I say one book a week, doesn't mean every student needs to buy one book for every week. Every student needs to buy 40 books a year. No, 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 no. You have a library, they share. So you have 30, if you have 30 books for 30 students, then you have 30 books to share, okay? They're not expensive. You can use them next year. You build the library. You have a library for 20 years, 30 years. Yes, one-time cost. You keep the library for a long time. Go for variety. If you can, 2 or 3 readers per student. Now be careful about that. If you have 30 students in your class and you want to have 2 or 3 books, everybody borrows one book. If you want to have 2 or 3 choices of books for the student, how many books do you need? Do the math. 30 students, you want 3 books to choose each. How many books do you need? No, 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 no. You need 32 books. Everybody takes one, there's 3 left over. Right? You only need 32 books, and every student has a choice of 3. There's always 3 left over. Okay? So 90 is better than 32, but do remember that you don't need a huge library to have lots of choice. Okay? How much reading? Beginners should be doing a book a week at their ability level. Intermediates, a book a week at their ability level. Why? Because beginner level books are quite thin. Don't need to read much. Words come again and again and again. Intermediate level books are a bit thicker. They're reading more material. They already know quite a lot of language, not a lot of new material in here. But when you get to the advanced level, the students already know lots of language. Therefore, they don't meet many new words, often. They already know most of it. So to meet words they don't know, they need to read more. So advanced level students need to read not just thicker books, but more books. Because what happens is, because you already know a lot of the language in the book, there's very few that you don't know. Therefore, to meet the words you don't know, you have to read more. Okay? So you start at 1 book a week at beginners, intermediates, elementary, but advanced level, you have to increase the reading. Okay? Be careful of the math. Be careful about native materials. Native books, magazines often can be too difficult. Be careful with your students. Can your students read the material fluently? Then okay. If not, it becomes intensive study. Now, native materials can be very motivating. But remember, for most students, it's intensive, not extensive. Yeah, so be careful. Children's books for natives are often full of difficult words, phrases, and concepts. Be careful of those. Some native materials have difficult concepts. They are written for, say, Americans or Australians or British people with their cultural background. Native materials, be careful. Make sure your students can actually read it and can actually understand it. Okay? There's a big difference between first language learning and second language learning. When you learn Korean in your first language, before you pick up a book, your first book, you already know 5,000 words in Korean. You already know the basic grammar at 5 years old. So for first language material, first language learning, you have a huge store of knowledge before you start learning. Therefore, all you're doing is adding a spelling to something you already know. Yeah? Second language is different. They start with 0 vocabulary. It's a very, very different experience. So you have to go more slowly. Yes, they don't have the 5,000 words. They don't have all of that grammar when they start reading in English for second language learners. So be careful. Native materials can be too difficult. Most Korean students know almost no English words and no grammar before they start English. Yes, most Korean students. They might know some, but they don't know so much. This is actually changing. Korean students now, one of the great things about Korea is when I come here, I can go to the convenience store, I can actually talk to the clerk in English. Yeah? I can talk to most people in the street and stop them, and they can talk to me. Go to Japan? All right, big difference. Well done, Korea. Okay, so book management systems should be simple and transparent. You need to make a grading scheme. Students need to know what's level 1 material, level 2, level 3. Be careful. This series here, level 1 in this series, is not the same as level 1 in this one. Level 1 here, not always the same levels. So you need to have a system to show which is first, which is second, which is third, yes? You may have to, for example, in your system, your level 1, you code all of those books with, say, a bit of yellow tape. Level 2 would have, say, blue tape on them. Level 3 would have green tape on them, yes? So all the books from different publishers, don't think level 1 is the same for each one. You have to have a system in place where students can code, where you will code the books by color. So they say, oh, I'm a yellow reader. Oh, I'm a pink reader. Oh, I'm a blue reader. Make sure not all of the books at level 1 are the same. Be careful of that. You can number the books. You should have 6 to 8 levels. 6 or 8 levels is enough. Yeah, too many levels is hard to manage. Number the books. You can have a number in them. So, for example, green level, book number 70. Number 4 might be a biography. If you want to have a code system for yourself, just write a little number, a code inside the book. There's no need in the library, there's no need to put them in order like, Charles Dickens first and then somebody else second. No, just throw them in, it doesn't matter, right? Okay. So this is an example of Meiji University's library in Tokyo, in Nagoya. They have a library there. This is another one. You can see here, all the series are together, but they're all by level. These here are the white books. You can see all the white. See the white here? These are all white books. These here are the blue books, you can see. This one here is not very interesting for students to go and see books like this. It's much better to have front-facing books. Make sure they can see the title. If you have them all on the spine, it's very difficult for the students to choose. Book displays are really useful. This means you're going to need space in your school library. If you can get the students, organize your class. So today, this week, you're making the book display. Next week, you're doing the book display. Next week, you're doing the book display. Get them involved, okay? Students can do checkout of their books as well. You can have a digital system if you wish. You can do a paper system if you wish, yeah? You can have book carols like this one. Different ways that you can display the books. You can have a reading area. In my school, we start with brown books at the bottom, then yellow, blue, pink, green, white, all the way up to gray. And you can see here, every book has got a color on it. And we have a checkout sheet, Grady Reader checkout sheet, who's reading which book, what class, how much they read. These systems are often very useful to have. Please think about those. And sometimes we have special books like these are all the red level, love story. This is for the class, yes. What we also have here is this is a special recommended reader. Can you see the gold on it? This is students have always loved this book. And it's a way to tell the other students which books are liked by their peers, yes. Sometimes what you can do, if the school allows, what the students can do when they finish the book is they can write a little smiley face in here. Tung tung, smile if they really loved it, or tung tung, if they didn't like it, right? So students can open the book and have a look and see what did the other students think of this one. It's a good way to give quick, easy feedback to the other students, okay? If you have CDs, you can have a little packet like this, so the CD with the book itself, keep them as a set. Students can take the book home. They can either read the book, or they can listen to the book, or they can read while listening. So 3 different choices. If they don't like reading, they can read. They can listen, okay? So again, try to keep the same coding system. If you're not sure of what level the books are, the Extensive Reading Foundation has a Extensive Reading Foundation scale that starts off, we suggest the beginners at this level, elementary, intermediate. So this scale here is useful based on head words. So some books have, say, 300 head words or 800 head words. So if you've got an eFuture 800 headword book, and you've got a publisher, another publisher with an 800 headword book, you know that it belongs here. Okay? So this scale will be helpful for you. Dig around the Extensive Reading Foundation website. You can find that. This is a book reading sheet. You can have one sheet for the class, so all the names go down here, and you can have all the dates across here, and you can tell which books they've borrowed. Or you can have one sheet for one person. So this is for Fukumoto Aya, this is her student number, and this is all the books that she has read. So there's two different book record systems. One's for the class, and you get the students to manage it, and the other one is for that. So you can then count how many words, how many pages they've read, which books they've taken out, and so on, yes? And you can keep a record of that. Two easy systems for your class. You don't need this, of course, if you can put the books into the school library. So, how do you introduce extensive reading to the students? Well, the first thing to do is to get them to look at some books. So, what I do with my students is I take a storybook. Say, for example, this one here, Magic Adventures, okay? And what we'll do is through a projector, maybe a projector on the screen, I would show the books to the students. I'd say, okay, look at the cover. What's it about? Can you guess? Look at the blurb on the back. The students would talk together. What do you think it's going to be about? They guess. Then what we do is we open up to maybe the inside page. We might learn some vocabulary, learn something about the characters. And then they would read. Maybe 2 or 3 pages together. Right? Then I stop. Close the book. Okay, talk to a friend. What was the book about? What's happening so far? Then, what do you think is going to happen next? And then next week, what I do is I then show chapter 2. Do the same thing again. What did we talk about? What was it about? Who was Mary? What was John doing? And then we go through chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4. And we go through 3 or 4 books like that. All the students reading the same material. And then what you do is you say, here's our standard course book, intensive reading book. And here's our storybooks. Which one do you like best? They'll point to this one. Guess what, kids? I've got hundreds more. Come and have a look. And they will come and have a look at the book. So in that way, you're creating interest. Come and take some books. But as you do, put the yellow books down, brown books, yellow books, green books, pink books. And what you do is you ask them to say, pick up a book and R-E-A-D. Can I read this? They say, yes, go to the next level. Can I read this? Great. Yes, go to the next level. No, go down to a level. Okay. So they go up and down to find their level. They go sit down and start to read the book. Yeah? So in this way, that's the way to introduce it to the students. Carefully, slowly. And they read in class, silently for, say, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that. And you go and monitor to make sure R-E-A-D. Okay? Then what you do is you say, next week, let's do the same. Choose your books. Let's read in class. And after about maybe 3 months, 4 months, you say, actually, we're too busy to read in class today. Could you read at home? And they will read at home. And then what we do is we slowly move the reading to homework rather than just keep it in class. Okay? So slowly, slowly, slowly. If you suddenly give them homework, they won't do it. Okay, so that's how we do it. So how do they know their level? As I mentioned before, the R-E-A-D, go up and down your levels. Okay, now I still have a few more slides in the handout. You can still see here. There are more about assessment. There's a few more slides about promoting extensive reading. There are a few more slides about these things. Now, I'll put them in there purposefully because, as I said, there's so much to do. So please feel free to look at these at home. I've covered the basic material about how to start a library, how to develop the library. But at the end here, we talk a bit about assessment. What are some of the problems that you might face? What are some of the objections to extensive reading? So if you are trying to promote extensive reading to your friends, here I have some tips and some hints for you. I don't need to go through them. I've written them in a way so you can understand from here. Okay? So my aim today has been to help you to know a little bit more about the practical side of extensive reading. It can be difficult. Please don't assume that this is easy. It's not necessarily easy. You will have some troubles. But for the benefit of the students, it's really, really important that we do this. Who's doing extensive reading already in their classes? Who's already doing some extensive reading? A few people. Who would like to do extensive reading? Okay, most people, right. So my aim today has not been to make you start doing extensive reading tomorrow. No. My aim today has been to help you to understand about extensive reading and to make the case for extensive reading. Because I know that some people here would say, okay, I understand you, Dr. Waring, I see what you mean, but it's not for me. Not for my school. We need to focus on the tests. We need to focus on scores. So I'm sorry. My aim today has been to make you feel guilty. Right? To make you feel, actually, I should really be doing this. Yeah? That's my aim today, to make you feel, hopefully, that you can start an extensive reading program here in Korea. Now, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. I'll be around during the lunchtime. We have more presenters later, which can help build on some of the things I've been saying. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Rob. Thank you for sharing your experience and expertise. It's a real pleasure having you.